Hi, welcome back to the Studio of Art by Wendy. Today I want to talk to you about painting with one of these Itsy-Bitsy paint trays. Yes, it is tricky, I must admit, but there are lots of little tips that can really get you going. They are so handy because they take up such little space. So let's get started. Learning how to paint with such a small paint palette is an art in itself. First of all, one of the things I've noticed is that the brushes that often come with these little kits are too small. What you want is a brush that has a decent sized brush. It should be able to spread out so that you can do a wash, but also have a point so that you can do some of the fine detail. Certainly something around 8 or around 6 would be a good brush to use. This one is quite nice because it's, as you can see, fits nicely in the tray. As you're getting organized, you want to put a drop of water in each of your paint, on top of each of your paints, in order to get them to start softening and you can access your color better. I guess the other thing you should notice too is you don't have to start with a clean palette every time. In my case, I'm out sketching in nature, and so green is a very common color for me to have to use, and so I have made this well all my greens. And here, this well here, as you can see, have bits of other colors that I want to add. And sometimes I even use this section here as bits. Okay, so once your palette has got the water on it, now it's time to start thinking about paint. So the first thing I'm going to do is mix this puddle of green. As you notice, this puddle is quite watery right now, and that will change quite quickly with the sun. So soon it'll dry up a bit, and then I'll have a nice thick creamy bit of green. So I'm going to get that ready first. The next thing I want to do is to push my greens in different directions. So even though I have a puddle, I'm going to take one section of it and add yellow to it, and then give myself a nice little yellow green. I can also pull out another section, add blue to it, and add different colors to it. Now the thing you want to think about is do everything in the color you have out right now. So right now I'm going to take and do what I need to do with the yellow green, and then I'm going to add some other things to that green in order to push it to some other elements. Once again, I've changed my green now by adding a bit of the phthalo blue to it to get a more blue-green for this row of trees here. And as well, I use this tray section here to get some of my blue from my sky. So for here, I just took the blue, kind of diluted it a bit to make sure it's watered down. Another thing that I have with me is a paper towel, so I can test my color on it. And as you can see, there's still green on my brush, but if I wanted to just get the blue, I can check and see, and I can see how light or dark that blue is. One thing I always find that's a bonus is this little corner over here ends up with lots of little bits of paint. And so when I want something for rocks or something, I just want a nice light gray. There's always a few colors I can play with there to give me some of those grays that I want. And of course they're made up of the colors that I'm using because they're from the same part of my paints. Sometimes it is necessary to clean a little spot on your tray. Here I want to do some of those clouds, so I need to mix some very, very light grays. I don't necessarily want that pink in it, so now I will clean out a spot, and then I can draw in some of the colors here and make a very light gray for my clouds. And again, because of the colors that are here, these are the same colors I've been mixing into my green, I'm going to have cloud colors that are very compatible with what I'm doing. After mixing my grays here for the clouds, I used ultramarine and burnt sienna I'm now going to work on the mountains behind. And so now I can still use that same ultramarine, and but now I can add some burnt sienna to it. So it does take a lot of planning in terms of what colors you're going to use, and as you move around your picture, you also are moving around your tray and reusing. You can see here my greens are drier right now. And so if I want a punch of a really dry brushing kind of thing, these greens are ready for that. Which is another reason why you would finish an area, move on, and then go back, so that you can add those little highlights later once your pigment has dried. If there's one problem you'll find working outdoors with the little metal trays, is that either the paint will dry quite quickly, and all of a sudden you've got a dry paint weld there, or you just want a little touch of a sharp color, but as soon as you put water to it, it becomes very thin. So it's just a constant balance, just like any other time when you're working with watercolor, of too much water, not enough water. That Itsy-Bitsy palette is sure great to use and very efficient for packing, but it does take a little bit of practice to create what you want. Wendy teaches outdoor sketching classes in the summer, and she teaches in her studio and online throughout the year. Wendy produces original work in pencil and in watercolor. She completes commission work, particularly pet portraits, and produces cards and prints from some of her work.